The New York Knicks are coming off their best season in well over a decade, finishing 50-32, achieving the second seed, and nearly making the conference finals, which I for one think that they would have if not for a parade of injuries, unfortunately including guys like Jalen Brunson, OG Anunoby, and Julius Randle long before the playoffs. And between all that, it really held them back, and I don't think they achieved their full potential. But now with new additions like Mikal Bridges, I think that they will be able to, and we're going to talk about why. But before we get too far into it, if you want more NBA content and in-depth content, then don't forget to drop a like, hit that subscribe button if you have not already, and turn on notifications so you never miss out when I upload a video. But without further ado, let's dive right into it. And last season, the Knicks were one of only 4 teams ranking both the top 10 in offensive and defensive rating, with the only other 3 being Boston, Oklahoma City, and Denver. They rank 9th in defensive rating, and they are very likely to improve with a full healthy year of OG Anunoby, who is a former All-NBA defensive player, and Mikal Bridges again, yet another new addition to their team, and yet another former All-NBA defensive player, making first-team All-NBA back in 2022, and not to mention finishing 2nd in Defensive Player of the Year voting. Even apart from defense though, they ranked 7th in offensive rating last season. And I know that's hard to believe for a Tom Thibodeau-led team, and it was the first time that they have cracked the top 10 under Tom Thibodeau, but they did in fact do it. Obviously it had a lot to do with Jalen Brunson. He had an MVP caliber year, putting up nearly 30 points per game, 7 assists per game, and shooting 40% from 3. Truly incredible numbers, and again, truly worthy of being an MVP. Unfortunately didn't get it, but I think he'll be in the running for it again. But now with the Knicks, or maybe the Nova Knicks, they will look somewhat different compared to last season. Adding Mikal Bridges, and finally putting together that Nova Knicks 4 of him, Jalen Brunson, Donte Divencenzo, and Josh Hart. And I'm sure you've heard plenty about it from their podcasts. But again, I think they'll be even better than last season, and not simply from being the Nova Knicks. They have a team packed with talent, both offensively and defensively, and they look to be fully healthy again too. They will get a full year of OG Anunoby, or at least hopefully. He is entering the year healthy, and him being hurt last season was a big reason for why they did not make it further. He tried to come back for their final playoff game, but unfortunately was not quite right. And even then, they look like a better team with him, and they definitely do with a healthy OG Anunoby as well. And then of course they made the blockbuster trade for Mikal Bridges. They gave up quite a bit to get him, but I think it was definitely worth it. Not only to reunite him with Brunson, Hart, and Divincenzo, but to add an incredibly valuable player to their team, really being the ultimate 3-and-D plus wing when he's on a good team, shown by his time back in Phoenix, and we'll talk about him a little bit more in a bit here, but definitely a great addition to their team and well worth it in my opinion. And then, while it might have gone overlooked, they will be getting back Julius Randle, who did get hurt mid-season and did not appear in the playoffs for them. And although he's kind of become forgotten about at this point, Randle is still a very good player. He made the All-Star team last season, don't forget, and definitely a favorite of Tom Thibodeau's too. But then finally, they did lose a piece to their front court as well, with that being Isaiah Hartenstein, left for Oklahoma City accepting a big contract, and that will affect their defense. Now I think they more than made up for it with the addition of Mikal Bridges, and still being a very good defense team without Hartenstein, and of course getting back a guy like Mitchell Robinson from injury, but that will be a big loss to their team. Great rim protector, great overall defender, great rebounder, and they'll have to figure out how to replace him or at least mitigate their team without him going forward. With that being said though, will the Knicks be better, worse, or roughly the same compared to last season? And well, it'll be hard to be much better than the number 2 seed with a 50-32 record, but I think they're definitely built to do it. With health being a major issue for them last season, they added the perfect guy to make up for any potential health risk. We're talking about Mikal Bridges here, the guy that has literally never missed a game in his entire NBA career, appearing in 474 straight games so far up until this point, being an NBA record in the current NBA. And he can be both the perfect complement to other star players in their team, like he was to Devin Booker and Chris Paul back in Phoenix, or step up and be that 20+ point per game guy when called upon if they're missing guys due to injury. He showed that during his time in Brooklyn, and I think that helped him grow up as well. Although they didn't do much winning over there in Brooklyn, it definitely did help Mikal grow as a player and really find his confidence to be that more than 3rd option type of guy, maybe not being a number 1 option of course, but kind of being that number 2 option, number 3 option who can more than be a great defender when he wants to be as well. Again, he might not ever become the number 1 scoring option that Brooklyn hoped for him to become, but he is without a doubt a championship level 3rd option. He has made the NBA Finals before in that kind of role and definitely can fill it, and is even better filling it now than before. And now with him kind of being back in that third, fourth option kind of role, he can get back to being an elite defender. He's shown it again, making first team all defense back in 2022, finishing second defensive player of the year voting. And now pairing him and OG Anunoby together in the same lineup, let alone starting lineup, that is going to be absolute hell for opponents. I mean, imagine switching from OG Anunoby only to find yourself being defended by Mikal Bridges, who can finally focus on defense again now too. That's going to be a living hell for opponent wing players, and I definitely would not want to face it, let alone game plan against it. Combined, they have averaged about 2.5 steals per game and 1.1 block per game on their entire career as wing players. Being absolute pests out there, being great one-on-one defenders, being great team defenders, and all around really unlocking the Knicks' ability on defense. No longer can you target pretty much anyone in their lineup with great individual defenders and help defenders and a great rim protector behind them in Mitchell Robinson. They have their defense down packed, and I think they will be a top 5 defense if they can stay healthy and figure it out. I don't really have any question about it. Moving on though, I mentioned Julius Randle before, and I do think he kind of has become underrated, or at least underappreciated at this point. He is no longer a bad contract no matter what way you want to look at it. With the salary cap going up, you can't even view it that way anymore, and that is production as well. I think we often overlook it, but the guy has averaged about 23 and 10 going back to 2020, and despite last season he got hurt, he has rarely gotten hurt since then, playing about 70 to 75 games on average before last season, and I would feel fairly confident about him having a healthy season again. You know, it might be an adjustment period for him coming back to a team that traded for OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges while he was hurt, which will likely take him some time to get used to, but he already looked like a great fit next to Brunson last season, and had no problem taking a little bit of a step back, and I don't think he will again either. But even apart from their insanely talented starting lineup, they have an insanely talented bench unit. I mean, having Josh Hart, Donte Divencenzo, and Deuce McBride coming off your bench is truly a luxury. That's something that very few other teams can compare to, either from an overall talent standpoint, a fit standpoint, or a production standpoint. They are 3 great role players, and definitely hardworking players too, with that being especially true for Josh Hart. Truly the definition of a hard worker, and definitely that Tom Thibodeau kind of player. I think he would play him more than 48 minutes per game if he could, and he obviously brings that intensity for them off the bench or in their starting lineup wherever he is within their rotation, and likely will finish games for them as well. He obviously was key for them throughout late last season and throughout the playoffs as well, and even with him maybe not starting for them, which probably is not very likely, he definitely will finish games and be a big part of their team and overall rotation. And then for Donte Divencenzo, he truly had a breakout year last season, averaging a new career high 15.5 points per game on really good efficiency. He was not just a shot taker or shot chucker, he shot 40.1% from 3, 45% on corner threes, and a really good 59.7% true shooting percentage. All around great offensively and then a really good defender as well. You don't just get from him on one side of the ball, you get a really good defender from Donte Divencenzo. Maybe not the level of an OG Anunoby or Mikal Bridges, but a really good wing defender and a switchable one too. And then finally for Deuce McBride, he is quickly becoming one of the most underrated players in the entire league. Only 24 years old yet with tons of untapped potential, but a really good point of attack defender that can definitely shoot the ball and score points for you off the bench as well. He shot 41% from 3 last season while playing really good defense and can drop 20 plus in any given night. So I've won him really high in Deuce McBride. He's been one of my favorite young players for quite some time now. I loved him coming out of West Virginia back in college. I think he's on the perfect team, and although he might be kind of limited in his bench role, albeit probably being a 20 to 25 minute per game kind of role, I think they'll take full advantage of him, and he definitely is a hard worker, and I think he'll be taking that next step for them this season. But then finally for Jalen Brunson, I mean, how much more can you say about the guy? Truly underrated last season, and I can hardly believe that he's not making a max contract. He finished 5th in MVP voting for their team last season, again putting up nearly 30 points per game, about 7 assists per game, shooting over 40% from 3, and truly being unguardable. Can score from anywhere on the court, be their primary playmaker, and definitely the de facto leader of their team. And yes, definitely a star player at this point too. No question about it, he's on that level, and honestly probably nearly top 10 if not top 10 the entire league. I think he is, and I think everyone's quickly coming to accept that fact too. And overall, the New York Knicks are incredibly talented, incredibly tough on defense, and definitely locked in all the way down to their 10th to first guy within their rotation. And in my opinion, they're the biggest threat to the Boston Celtics, and who knows, might even be able to push them off that pedestal. But with that being said, let me know what you guys think about the Knicks in the comments down below. Will they be better, worse, or about the same compared to last season? And who might you pick for a breakout candidate on their team? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. But again, I think that will pretty much do it, and if you enjoyed the video, then don't forget to drop a like, hit that subscribe button if you have not already, and turn on notifications so you never miss out when I upload a video. But as always, thank you for watching and have a great day.